Thank you, Mark. Good afternoon, all. My name is Farouk Abrams. I'm the Sales Director at Weba Chutes Systems. I'm joined by Mark Bala. He's our Managing Director.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Just a point to note that during the presentation, we won't be taking questions, but they are on Zoom. At the bottom of the screen, there's an icon, a Q&A icon. If you could type your questions in as we go along, there will be a question and answer session at the end, and we will then attempt to answer all of your questions at that stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you for everyone for joining, and thank you for Minko and for Karina for putting this webinar together for us today. The purpose of this webinar is to introduce those that are not aware of Weba Chutes, or the Weba Chute system as we call it. And for those that do know it, is to give them more information about our company and our product and services. Those who don't know Weba Chute Systems, who are we? Weba Chute Systems was founded by Mr. Werner Baller in 1984. We have 300 employees across the globe. What is unique about our company is the fact that we only focus on chutes. If you look at materials handling, the only thing that we do is the chutes on that particular materials handling. More importantly for us as well is the fact that we design, we've got patents for some of our chutes, and we also do the fabrication and installation of the chutes. Something else that's also important to note is the fact that we give our customers a 12-month performance warranty. So if we do come up with a problem and we find a solution, we put our money where our mouth is and we provide a performance guarantee within a 12-month period. Added to that, we also do after-sale service. So after the 12 months, we do regular inspections of the chutes, and any spares that need to be replaced, we would do so. The spares are also designed and manufactured by ourselves. Just in terms of the presence that we have across the globe, if we can start in North America, we've got an agency in Canada as well as the United States. If we go further down to South America, we've got an office in Chile. I'll skip Africa for now and move straight across to Europe and Asia. In Europe, we've got an agency in Turkey. We are in discussions with a company in Russia with a view of concluding an agency in that region as well. Just before our lockdown in April, we were also in discussions with a company in Saudi Arabia to represent us for the MENA regions. In Africa, our head office is based in Mauritius. However, we've got a strong presence in South Africa, where the company originally started. We've got our design office in South Africa as well as our fabrication. South Africa feeds into the rest of Africa, where we have a strong presence in places like the DRC, Zimbabwe, most of West Africa, Botswana, and Namibia. Now, the connection with Africa is quite important for Australians, and the fact that we know that Australians got, in form of junior mining companies, have a strong presence in Africa. So not only can we service you locally in Australia, but we can also do so on the African continent, directly from Johannesburg or through our agents that we have in Africa. Moving across to Australia, we have an office in Perth, where we service mostly the western part of Australia. And as of last year, as most of you would know, we've signed up with Minco to represent us on the East Coast. The beauty about having Minco as an agent is the fact that there's complementary skills in the fact that the commodities that they focus on is not what we focus on in our Perth office. This is just, this slide represents the amount of chutes that we have across the globe, across the world. We are on close to 5,000 chutes. And what's important about the slide is the fact that we've got 211 chutes in Australia. So there's quite a strong presence. Most of our chutes is still in South Africa. We've done quite a bit of work in the United States as well as Turkey. Specifically on Australia, where we have 211 chutes successfully installed in Australia as well as Tasmania. And the commodities that we have in Australia where we've covered is iron ore, copper, gold, and manganese. Mark will later on use one of the case studies of Australia to show you or to showcase you how our chutes are superior to conventional chutes. Some of the customers or clients that we've worked with in the past, representing 526 clients across 20 countries. For those that don't know the Weba chutes, what's important about our chutes compared to conventional chutes? Well, if a customer is in the process of developing a new mine, a greenfields, or expansion of brownfields, what we do is we sit down with the customer, we find what the problems are within that particular greenfields or brownfields, and we then develop a solution. And each of our chutes are specifically designed for a specific problem that the customer may encounter going forward or has encountered in the past. So each of our chutes are bespoke engineered for a specific application. No two chutes are alike. So we don't slap together metal into a conventional chute. Each of our chutes are specifically designed for a specific application. When we do this, we take into account the 3 Ps. I'm sure you guys are aware of this. The first one is the planet or the environment, people, and as well as profits. Just a little bit more about the environment, and later on in the presentation, Mark will again showcase another study that we've used to show how our chutes are environmentally friendly. But we've conducted our own internal dust control studies, and we found that dust levels are reduced by up to 77%. And why this is important is, and this latches on to the second point that I've mentioned about people, the employees working on the mines, as well as the communities that are around the mines. Dust levels or in the environmental part of it plays a very important part of it. In terms of safety and ISO, we are ISO 9001:2015 compliant or certified, and we're also compliant in terms of ISO 45001. Mark will take over now. Thank you.
All right, so what I'd like to do is just run you through some of the case studies that we do have. The first case study is at Palabora mine in South Africa. It is a copper mine, and this is an underground application on a 1.3 kilometer long incline conveyor. And the issue that they were having was several loading points coming in, and they were having belt failures where the steel core was being damaged through excessive impact. Now, they would x-ray this conveyor 3 to 4 times a year, and they would have to do continual repairs or belt replacements depending on the severity of the damage that occurred. So for anybody that's been on a mine, belt damage is a major issue. We've all seen the belts with pieces missing out of them, or the stoppages that have occurred through the belt being damaged or ripped. So the Rio Tinto offered us, approached us for a solution. And what we did was we took into account all the aspects of the transfer points, including the large slabs coming through, the foreign objects and other items such as that. And we designed the chutes to alleviate the impact that they were experiencing onto their receiving conveyor. So the aim on this was that it gave the client a return on investment on the chute was within 12 months. And this was achieved purely through the extension of the life of the conveyor, the reduction of unplanned stoppages due to belt damage and belt failures. And this was successful to such an extent that the belt has now been running for close on 4 years without a single failure of the belts due to damaged steel cores. So as a matter of fact, they still x-ray the belts and everything now, and the biggest issue they now have is on the deterioration of the splices rather than the damage of the belt. The second one I'd like to just address, this one is in Wyoming in the United States, the power station there, Laramie Power Station. The power station was put on notice by the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, for the dust emissions, both within the plant and coming from the plant into the neighboring environment. Within the plant, the key component was identified as being the transfer chutes. There was 11 of them in total that were identified as being problematic, and where the dust extraction that they had was insufficient to achieve the required levels of emission. So Weba was tasked with redesigning these chutes in order to reduce the dust levels. Being that this is power station coal, fine coal, with a tendency to build up, Weba is often associated for the cascade lining system that we use, which is very effective in hard rock applications. However, in this case, this is what we call a superflow liner chute, which is lined with chromium overlay liners. So the target on this was to reduce the dust down to a level that they could actually then use the dust extraction that they had without upgrading it if necessary, and come within the required emission levels. So we completed this job. The photos you see here are taken with the conveyor running, and we actually managed to reduce the dust below the required 2.4 milligrams per cubic meter, and that was without the dust extraction actually even connected. So with the dust extraction connected, you could literally sit down and eat your plate of lunch right next to the chute and not have a whole bunch of coal. What was nice about this study as well is Laramie actually conducted the testing before and after and published the results. And this is the one we cite as a 77% reduction in dust emissions. And this was published in the Coal magazine in the United States. So this was actually results verified by the client themselves. Then the third one I'd like to discuss, this one is to give it an Australian flavor. It's an old one, but it's a good one, so we'll use it. This was at Paraburdoo iron ore mine in the Pilbara region in Western Australia. There's issues that they had there. They're handling very abrasive hematite iron ore up to 250 millimeter lump sizes. So this is post-primary crushing. And they had, for some reason, At some point in the Pilbara, the flavor was the hook and spoon chute designs, and that was installed in 2003. This transfer chute was the driving force to their 6 weekly shutdowns and would often fail prior to shutdown and need to be window patched to keep running until the 6-week shut, when the full refurbishment of the liners was done. So this was responsible for numerous unplanned stoppages and caused the need for temporary outside patches to be installed. So Weba was tasked with what the mine wanted to do is extend their maintenance shut from 6 to 12 weeks. So to come up with a chute design that would last double the lifespan of the existing chute. So what Weba did was we looked at the issues they had. We had the ore analyzed, we got the tundra results, and we took all the information into account. And we came up with a design fit for purpose for what they were doing. The new chute runs trouble-free with no blockages under normal conditions. Obviously, there's always an abnormal event that happens that can block a chute. The cascade lining system proved to be extremely effective, and the liner life was extended to such an extent that they only needed to do annual maintenance on the chute. So going from maintaining the chute every 6 weeks to maintaining it once a year, and the chute is no longer the driving force for the now 12-week weekly shuts that they have at the mine. And the interesting thing here is when you put the numbers together, and we often get the case and people say, but why is the chute so expensive? And in this case, this chute was paid back in the matter of weeks in the cost savings that the mine achieved. When the mine started talking about $200,000, $300,000 an hour loss of production, a single stoppage, unplanned stoppage, could literally pay for the transfer chute. So if you have issues, obviously by addressing those issues and getting rid of them, you increase the productivity. And over the span of the life of the mine, this can be equate to millions of dollars of savings on the behalf of the client. So Weba is, as Farouk mentioned, we are a turnkey provider on transfer chutes. We are totally specialized in transfer chutes. It's what we do day in and day out, which makes us pretty unique. There's not many companies doing only chutes. For most companies, chutes is part of a range of products that they would offer around other equipment. So it is a part-time activity. We design, manufacture, install, we assist with the maintenance, we do DEM simulations and 3D laser scanning. So the design and manufacture, we have our own facility in South Africa, or in Australia, the United States, and Turkey. We also use local fabrication under our supervision in order to carry out the manufacture. This manufacture is done to our ISO 9001 specifications and procedures. And we have a full in-house design capability. We do our own site surveying. We have the 3D laser scanning, which is using the latest fit for purpose technology to assist in ensuring that the product that we deliver will fit seamlessly into the existing infrastructure. And we then also have the know-how to assist with the installations and also with the maintenance thereafter. Okay, overclicked. Then, as I mentioned, the DEM, we use the Rocky DEM system. We have 2 licenses on that. Unlike a lot of companies, we don't design the chute. We're using the DEM. We design the chute using engineering principles, as well as the experience that we have gained from our almost 5,000 installations. And this is, for us, our unique selling point, is the fact that we have this experience. Our engineers and our drawing office staff, our draftsmen, have been to site repeatedly. They go out, they survey, they look firsthand at the issues that are being experienced. That information is all collated. We are then able to tap into this vast resource of knowledge that we have built up over 30 years, and the intellectual property that we actually do have, and use that to come up with a fit for purpose solution for the client. So while we use DEM, DEM is used as a verification tool to then verify that the design that we have done is going to work as expected. And if necessary, we can then, after running the DEM, make minor adjustments to the design. But in almost 90% of the cases, the design passes the DEM verification process without changes. We also have invested heavily in the 3D laser scanning capabilities. This is to assist in our site surveying capabilities, where we go out and measure up transfer points in the traditional manner, where we take measures and plumb lines and such. And we then take the 3D point cloud, and we are then able to do the full interface check to ensure that what we are supplying the client will fit within their existing infrastructure. There are a number of advantages that are associated with the Weba Chute, and this all comes down to coming up with the correct design, controlling the material from the time it enters the transfer chute to the time that it is deposited on the receiving apparatus. So by doing this and coming up with an effective design, some of the advantages you can achieve is a reduction in degradation of material, which for some industries is important, a reduction in wear and tear, so reducing the maintenance cost. It's also, while some of our chutes do have skirting on, some chutes don't, and the skirting is merely there to contain minor splatter and help contain and allow the dust to settle within the skirt box. The purpose of the skirts is not to keep the material on the belt. The main flow of material is loaded onto the conveyor belt in the direction of travel at a speed which is approximately similar to the receiving conveyor, and as such there's minimal kinetic energy at the discharge point, so we don't get the material spraying out sideways, and the skirting is purely there to contain the little bits of splatter that do bounce off. Then a big advantage of the chutes is around the environmental advantages that we do give you. These advantages are greatly around noise and dust. So for the people working within the plant, sometimes these transfer chutes can be excessively noisy. It can be like literally somebody standing there with a hammer hitting against a piece of steel as the material goes through, and you have noise levels well in excess of the 80-90 decibels, which is the safe working limit. So our chutes are very quiet in their operation, and definitely come in under safe working noise levels. And this, obviously, the noise generated by this also affects if nearby communities, if the operation is in a built-up area, as in the case of certain processing plants and such, the dust and the noise that is generated actually affects local communities, not just the staff on site. An interesting story with regards to noise, as an example, we did a job at a clinker mine in Mississippi in the United States, And the only complaint we got from the mine manager after we had done the installation was that he used to be able to sit at his desk and he could hear that his plant was running by the noise that the chute made. And after we installed our chute, he actually had to go outside and see if the conveyor belts were running to know whether his plant was running or not. So that was quite funny. We also look at, making the transfer point supervision free, automating if there's changeovers, actuators, looking at overrun storage facilities where you have an overrun situation, and obviously designing the chutes that we are able to cater for maximum belt loading. So some of the proven results, and we have some of these are tested in-house and some are from external sources, but we have a reduction in noise of 45% has been achieved. So by reducing the decibels by up to 45%. The maintenance of the chute, this is taking into consideration the cost of maintenance before versus after installation of a Weba chute. We also have the belt wear, which this result actually is the one from Palabora, as well as one from Mahalakwena Platinum Mine in Limpopo. And we have various other results of a lower level. And then the dust, we have a very active program where we offer the service to the client to go out, do dust studies prior to installation. We then come back post-installation, being sure to go out when the atmospheric conditions and material conditions are similar to when we did the first test, so as to eliminate outside factors and to ensure that the result that we get is actually realistic. There's no point in measuring before when there hasn't been rain for 3 months and everything's bone dry, and then going to do your final measurements afterwards, so when there's just been a wonderful rain shower and all the material's wet. So we try and have realistic measurements, and we look at atmospheric weather conditions, the wind speeds, as well as the material conditions, to ensure that the test results are accurate. And then the last one is plant downtime, and this is a big one. It might only be 20%, but if you talk to your clients and you go into many bulk material handling plants, one of the biggest issues that they have is unplanned plant downtime. And this costs them a huge amount of money. And as per the example that we gave at Parabadu, when these guys are talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars per hour loss of production, this is an enormous cost and an enormous saving that a client can be given. And if you go through these plants, it is shocking how many of the unplanned stoppages they have are chute related, whether it be a blockage, whether it be the chute holding out, or damage to a receiving piece of equipment due to the poor chute design. And chutes and their peripheral issues contribute largely to the plant downtime. And with proper chute design, with chutes that are fit for purpose for specific applications, we can reduce this unplanned plant stoppages by up to 20%. All right, then in closing, just to reiterate, we do have a global presence, and we're working with our chutes within 20 countries around the world. That number is growing year on year, and we have now almost 5,000 successful installations over the last 30 years, and we have a lot of experience that comes in our specialized field of operation. So just our team, Brooke, and who's our sales director, and myself that are present today. That's our contact details, and then our technical director, Alwyn Nienaber, who is obviously heavily involved on the design and the engineering portion of the functions of the company. So I think what we'll do now is we'll have a look and see if we have any questions. So for those of you who have questions, if you could please type them in under the Q&A tab at the bottom of the screen, and we will then attempt to answer the questions. Hopefully we can, but if there are questions that we cannot answer, we would happily come back to you and refer you to somebody that can actually assist you with the question you have asked. So if there are any questions, if you could please type them in. So it is always an advantage. So we are very used to working with the reports that we get from Tundra. Tundra generates reports, and there's, for the chute design, a lot of their reports are to do with mass flow, but there's certain sections of that report that are very valuable to us as chute designers in ascertaining the chute angles at which we will design the chutes. Obviously, the Tundra tests are done predominantly on the finer material, and then it depends on the site information that we have received. So on site, there's a whole questionnaire that we fill out to give us information that we would then use in doing the installation. So if this is a greenfields project and there's no site to visit to gain this information, then a test like the Tundra test would be an absolute must for us, unless it is on a project on an existing plant where we actually have handled the material before, and therefore we have prior knowledge. That's the first question. Second question we've got is chutes in lithium. There's a lot of commodities that we have handled, but lithium is not, unfortunately, not one of them. I know lithium mining is doing quite well at the moment, with the demand increasing for batteries and electric cars and such. And we have been approached in the past, in the recent past, on a project that is happening in lithium. And we are hopeful that something will come out of that. But at this point in time, we haven't actually handled the lithium product. Next question is, do you design high temperature chutes? The simple answer to that is yes. We have a number of chutes that work in very high temperatures. The first one that I would mention is at Saldanha Steel Plant. In their electric furnaces, we actually do the chute that loads the furnace. This chute has a water jacket on it for cooling purposes. It has nitrogen curtain to prevent the flames from shooting out of the furnace. So very interesting chute, and working at temperatures directly on top of a furnace. We've also done chutes in the steelmaking process where the sinter is coming out onto sinter coolers. We've got 2 of those in operation, one in Turkey, one here in South Africa, where the sinter ore is put into the rotating cooler before it is then processed through the rest of the plant. And that is temperatures, I believe, of over 600 degrees Celsius. So those would sort of be the chutes with the highest temperatures that we've handled. Then a question from Cameron. Have you compared operating costs of a traditional chute, say a mill feed chute, with a well-designed Weba chute? Cameron, we do have a number of these studies that we've done. One, we definitely know the post-installation costs because we know exactly what spares have been bought and the maintenance thereof. On the mill feed spout in particular, it is one of our favorite chutes to do because a mill feed chute is actually quite complex, because the better you feed the mill, there's knock-on advantages in the breakage of material, the effectiveness of the mill, amperage that you're pulling on the mill. If you load the mill unevenly, you can be pulling more power. But for argument's sake, if we go back to that case study of Parabadu, and we have numbers on that, and they gave us numbers of what their maintenance was pre and what it was post. And to give you an idea, pre replacement of our chutes, they were spending it was over $230,000 a year on replacement of liners on that chute, and post installation of the Weba chute, that cost came down to the numbers, $27,400 on an annual basis to maintain the same transfer chute. So we do have various studies, and we have definitely done a number of the mill feed applications. Okay, then Rajesh has a question for me. Do you have experience in dealing with material degradation for coke application? How much degradation have you managed to reduce? Rajesh, we do have a case study. What I'll do is I'll ask Karina to send it through. This came from Turkey as well, where the whole project was related on us achieving, I believe, they wanted a 40% reduction or a 20% reduction, and we easily surpassed it. So we do have the figures, the before and after, taken by the mine themselves, and I'll ask Karina to forward that on to you. But we have done other studies here in South Africa at the Samancor Mayerton. We ran a whole project on the degradation of material, because with their products, the fine material almost becomes a waste, and there's a limit to how much fines they can have in the ore that they export. And they were literally throwing tons of material that was being stockpiled and being sold at a largely reduced price, because they were having to sift fines out of their material. And subsequent to us doing this project where we replaced a number of transfer chutes in their system, they were actually able to blend fines back into their material because of the reduction in fines. So we do have case studies, and I'll ask Karina to forward that on to you. The last one.
I think something else that we need to add, Mark, is the fact that I just want to add something that we should have addressed at the beginning. We're South African-based company, so our cost base is obviously in rands. What we found is that with our local design and fabrication, we're quite cost competitive in places like the United States, where the US dollar, and even in Australia as well, with the Australian dollar being much stronger than our rand. So in terms of our competitiveness, in terms of our chute pricing, it is definitely an advantage.
Then I have a guy with an interesting name, Anonymous, asking us to show SAG mill chutes designs and pictures. I'm not sure if Karina can do that during this webinar. We do obviously have examples, but if you give us your details, we can share these with you. So I'm not sure if Karina is able to fulfill that request at this point in time during the webinar. So just please give us your details, and then we can share it. Cameron, you ask, can Weba provide maintenance and training support to Australian clients to ensure optimal service life? Cameron, we can. There's two ways of doing it. This coronavirus pandemic that we're currently going through has taught us a lot with regards to having to work remotely. So there's a lot that can be done remotely with regards to training sessions. We do have documentation, we have manuals, we have maintenance manuals, operating manuals that do give a lot of information, but we can also augment this quite simply with online training sessions. and online support using platforms such as Teams to provide that information. I think this is for all of us a very interesting experience. Andrew, you say, thanks for the presentation. Do you have general guidelines and limitations on the ledge cascading design of handling stick and wet ores? When do you decide to use the self-cleaning chutes instead? Andrew, just a short answer. This is a decision that we make very much when we have all the facts. If we have like the Tundra results and we have the particle size distribution, and especially if we can get to site, we can normally quite easily make a decision on whether a cascade chute is going to be suitable or not. Often a client will say to us, no, he thinks a cascade chute won't work, but it all has to do with the internal angles of friction, the sliding friction on whether you're sliding now material on material or material on a slick liner. And then the particle size distribution plays a big role, because if you're just looking at fine ore, then often as soon as it becomes wet and sticky, you have to move straight across. But we actually have numerous chutes running in relatively sticky applications that are cascade type chutes. But generally with the finer materials, your coals, if coal is under a certain particle size, as soon as it gets a bit of moisture, it can get have a high coefficient and easily sticks together. We would then look at going for what I call the sexy chutes. There's the superflow liner chutes. It's like porn for engineers. They've all got, they're sexy, they're sleek, they've got all the curves in all the right places, and we then move towards those. Obviously, all chutes are designed on an acceleration deceleration philosophy, so you will have areas of acceleration and deceleration. The stickier the type of the ore, the less you want to have drastic decreases in acceleration, but you also have to be mindful not to have excessive acceleration and therefore excessive velocities, because that creates a whole new set of problems when it comes to belt loading. And when you do have impact, the higher the velocity, the more the wear. You can also, in areas of free fall, have aeration of material, which causes problems and dust. So there's a lot to look at when you go into that sort of question. So I think I answered the question. I'm not sure, I maybe digressed a bit. Next question from Cameron. Do Weba have data sheets that can be filled out? Yes, we do. We call it a technical questionnaire. We have one. We have, I think there's about 32 different ones for different applications, because obviously for a mill feed application versus a screen discharge application, the questions that you need to ask are different. The set of information that we require is different. So we provide the client with this technical questionnaire, and then part of that is requesting knowledge that only the client can have on the history of operation, current problems experienced, because at the end of the day, it would be disingenuous of us to say that we know what goes on the client's plant. And the client has a lot of plant-specific knowledge, which is critical for our success. So the filling out of these technical questionnaires and the providing of all the relevant information, and obviously that together with the site measurements, surveys, drawings, and if they are available, the material tests, then gives us a full spectrum of information. We have had problems in the past where, unfortunately, information that we have received from clients has not been, not everything has been disclosed or has not been correct, and we then do subsequently run into problems. We do stick by our chutes, so we will assist the client in resolving the problem. We don't just sit and point fingers and say, sorry, your problem. But it's critical that this information is accurate in advance, because that just so much greatly increases the chances of success. Transfer chutes are not easy. I think a lot of people look at it and say it's a box and it just takes the material from A to B. And it is that sort of attitude that leads to problems in the plants and huge costs that are avoidable. And because each transfer point is unique in that the configuration of the transfer point, the material that is handled, the range of conditions that that material may be in, each one is custom designed for a specific application. It is not a copy and paste exercise in designing the chutes. You can't just take components from other chutes and piece them together to come up with a chute. You actually design each specific chute for each application. All right. If we do not have any more questions, I think we'll just we can maybe just close off with a few facts about us. Obviously, as I mentioned before, we're a totally specialized company in transfer chutes. This is what we do day in and day out. So the amount of experience that our team has with regards to transfer chutes is what I think differentiates us from our competitors. It is what makes us better at what we do than perhaps the average company. It's not that there aren't talented engineers and bulk material companies out there, but as you can imagine, when 100% of your effort and attention is put into a single product, and it's not that we are producing the Rubik's Cube and you can make billions of them and they're all the same. Each one is specific, each one is different, and each one has its own little quirks and special circumstances. So it is interesting for us. We find transfer chute design exciting. While the chute may not look like it changes a lot, there is continual development going on to improve what we do. The only way that we can claim that we are the best and remain the best is by continually improving, because we are very happy to note that there are a lot of other companies out there that are doing a lot better job on transfer chutes than they did 10, 15 years ago. And to a certain extent, we would like to think that we've had an influence on that. But that is good for the industry. It is good for the industry to be expecting a better result and to know that better results can be achieved. And at the end of the day, that is good. That is good. We've had a few circumstances in the past, and specifically in the United States, with a few companies that came out in competition with us when we went into the United States and made similar claims to what we claimed, but unfortunately could not back those claims up. And as a result, there was a term coined, which was a term that we used, and that was flow control chutes. And people even tried to trademark that and all sorts of things. But that technology, as you were, got a bad name because you had companies claiming that they could do it, but were giving the clients a poor result because they did not, I think, properly understand how to design the chute, or did not have sufficient knowledge, and that is then detrimental to our industry. So good competition is healthy. We are glad to see the improvements that are going on. Even in the EPCMs, we're seeing more effort being put into chute design, whereas previously the transfer chute was the orphan of the bulk material handling industry. It was the afterthought. You put everything else in place and then you drew the chute. Whereas now we look at positioning the other equipment so as to optimize the chute's performance. In the past, you put the other equipment in, and whatever the configuration was, that is what you worked with. So we're very encouraged with the changes we've seen, the direction the industry is going in with regards to environmental, with regards to emissions, with regards to looking after our planet and our people. So we find that very encouraging. Rajesh, you gave us a question about a representative in India. No, we don't have a representative in India. India is a fairly substantial market. We did a number of years back put 2 chutes into India, and they worked successfully, but unfortunately we couldn't find the correct agent. And as a company, we are not a huge company, and we rely on a network of agents being professional and knowing our product and their clients and their market, and marketing into those areas. So if we are not able to find what we think is a suitable agent, we would rather not actively market into an area that we cannot properly support. And as such, at this point in time, we do not have an agent in India. We would handle that directly from South Africa. So if you have any specific applications, we would, well, at the moment we can't fly out and come and have a look at it, but we would definitely do everything we could to support you.
I think just on adding on to that, Mark, and a question that Cameron had earlier, for us to give support to our customers, especially during the first 12 months when we have the performance guarantee, and up to that have regular inspections, is to have the agent on the ground, so we don't do it remotely only from South Africa. So we will obviously, through our agents, and train our agents properly to make sure that they do those inspections, to make sure that the longevity of the chute is what we say it can do up front. And when we do then have to replace any spare parts, we can do so also through our agent.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in a country the size of Australia, you know, people don't, I think, appreciate the magnitude of the size of the country and how isolated some of these operations are. So, you know, that is definitely where we would have to have an agent on the ground that can service the client and can get to the mine if necessary, but definitely working hand in hand with the clients and doing training with the clients and giving the client all the tools to give us the information that we need, because it's not a case of, you know, get into your car and drive 40 minutes and you're at the mine. In Australia, I mean, you could drive for days to get to some place. I've had the dubious privilege of actually driving across Australia 3 times, and I can tell you, it's 3 days of solid driving to get from one side to another. I've been across the navigable plains 3 times, and I can tell you there's not much there. So if you were thinking of doing it, rather take an aeroplane. All right, guys. If there's anybody that's got any specific questions you'd like answered afterwards, or any requests for information like the pictures of the SAG mills, of installations that we've done there. Karina does have a lot of information around this. She has certain brochures for certain applications, such as mill chutes, that give you a bit more information on the chutes that we have done, and pictures and graphics and stuff. So if you could perhaps contact us. I do believe in the invitation, you've got that. Otherwise, please email Karina at karina@webachutes.com, and Karina will pass on that information. If there are any questions, we'll get the answers formulated. If it's a request for pictures and more information such as fact sheets and things, then Karina can forward those on to you. I'd like to thank you for your attendance and for your patience. This is our first webinar. We've obviously done presentations before, but I think it's different when you've got the people in front of you. So this is our first attempt at a webinar, and we thank you for being our guinea pigs and allowing us to experiment on you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye.